Welcome to How to Save Your Marriage with Nicola Beer, a show full of tips and practical strategies to repair, rebuild, and strengthen your relationship. If you are currently stuck wondering if your marriage can be saved, or you know you want to save it but don't know how to go about changing it, this show is for you. And now here is your host, Nicola Beer, who specializes in a proven 10-step program to help couples increase the love, passion, and happiness in their marriage in 30 days or less, guaranteed.
Hi and welcome, this is Nicola Beer. I hope you're having an awesome day wherever you are, or evening. And I'm going to be sharing about confronting and managing control issues in relationship. So it's all about control today, because it doesn't feel good to feel controlled in a relationship. It also deep down doesn't feel good to be controlling someone else. Unless, of course, you're a narcissist. But we're not going to be talking about narcissism today. Yet, unfortunately, control issues and controlling happens all the time and often continues that way until someone has enough and wants out of the relationship. Over time, people can get used to being in control and feel like it's the only way to get by in the relationship. They go with the flow, they allow themselves to be controlled, but when they go with the flow, within that flow, they are collecting and carrying resentment with them. Controllers can also get fed up too. They can feel burdened by the responsibility of taking charge of certain areas and stop finding those that follow them attractive, often losing respect for the person they control. Despite wanting them to dance to their tune, at the same time, they lose admiration. Does that make sense? The key thing to remember is that long-term controlling behaviour destroys relationships and marriage, even if short-term it may seem okay to go along with it. The issue of power and control in relationships are often hidden to the outsider, yet within a marriage or close family relationship is likely to be an ongoing battle which affects a person's self-esteem, happiness and sense of identity. If they're always being controlled, or if they're always controlling and have to have that control. So are you being uncomfortably controlled right now? Or are you being too controlling? Has your partner accused you of being controlling? Do you think to yourself that your partner is controlling? Before I go on to look at the most common control conflicts, let's look at the two main types of control in relationships and marriage. Overt control, this is like demanding, dictating, bullying, aggressive behaviour. And then there's more subtle forms of control like shutting down, disappearing, silent treatment, and other forms of passive-aggressive behaviour. One of the most common destructive patterns of control I see is the pursue-withdraw control system. It's where one partner keeps approaching the other about an important need or problem, while the other person becomes overloaded and withdraws or superficially complies. The pursuing partner gets really frustrated and becomes more and more frustrated, which leads him or her to create pressure, more pressure, and increase the pressure, and the withdrawer becomes more and more overwhelmed by the pressure, resorting to either flight, where they completely shut down or disappear or avoid their partner, or they fight. They get aggressive back to escape the pressure. And the problem with this is obvious. Both partners feel caught in a trap that keeps replaying. Neither feels like they have control. Both see each other as controlling. Am I making sense? The withdrawer thinks, you are controlling me, because you keep on asking me and asking me and asking me. That's a form of control. And the other person, the person that's wanting something, feels like the other person's got all the control because they're waiting. And they don't have any power, they don't have any choice. And they're sick of being controlled, they're sick of being made to wait. And this can happen in many areas of relationships, whether it's in the sex life, in communication, with household tasks, with DIY around the house, with anything. One person needs something, they put pressure on, The other person doesn't want that pressure, they find it too much, they withdraw, the other person puts on more pressure, the other person withdraws more. It's just this cycle. So to stop this dance, you need to get off the dance floor of pushing and being needy, or withdrawing and shutting down. What is needed is moving forward rather than moving away from each other. So moving forward, by that I mean moving towards one another, moving together, working it out, finding a solution, discussing it, and stopping the behaviours that are creating this dance. Now, if you don't know how to express what you're feeling, then you can always share this audio with them if they're open to listening to this podcast. And maybe you can then discuss, is this happening in our relationship? What are we going to do about it? And I'm going to be giving you more tips as we go on. So now let's look at some of the most common control conflicts that I help with. The first is communication control. And this is similar to the pattern that I just described to you. Communication control is where one person in the relationship refuses to engage in discussions on certain topics. They therefore are dictating what can and can't be brought up. Those that control the topics often do this as a defence mechanism because they are either only thinking of themselves, don't want to admit that they are wrong, or it's about fear. Fear of being attacked, fear of being embarrassed. For obvious reasons, it damages a relationship long term, because for closeness and connectedness, you need to be able to discuss whatever is on your mind. And if you cannot discuss some of the most important things on your mind, then of course frustration and resentment can build. And I see this time and time again with saving a marriage after infidelity. After a spouse has discovered an affair, they want the cheating husband or wife to go over what happened and all the details several times. They all may also have a craving to need to know why. Why have they done it? Why that person? Why now? Why in this way? However, the person who had the affair wants to move on. They want to put it behind them and they want to forget the infidelity. And as much as the other person wants to let it go, they struggle because they have so many questions, so many thoughts and images going round in their head, and they want to talk about it. The control in this situation is different and needs to be addressed before the affair does further damage than it's already caused. Another topic that can be off limits in relationships between a husband and wife is sex. Many couples don't talk about sex. Now, I'm British, and it's not something many Brits do well, having open conversations about sex. And I personally believe it is a cultural thing. I lived with my boyfriend for 3 years. He was also British. This is going back over 10 years ago now. And we could not talk about our sex life. The thought of it even just didn't feel comfortable. And it's so strange looking back, given the work that I do, and now I, talk about all these things so openly. And I can see it in many married couples as well. It's just something they really rarely talk about and they feel uncomfortable with. I think it's all to do with our upbringing, both in terms of were our parents open about certain things and also culturally. I mean, my parents were the kind of parents where if a sex scene was on the TV, it would be cover your eyes, or we're going to turn that off, or we're going to change channel, or we don't want to see that. And of course they were protecting us, but they sort of made it seem like sex was like something it would be a disaster if you saw, and it was unnatural and it was horrible. And so it kind of installed in me, it's not good to talk about it. I don't know, it affected me in some kind of way. Anyway, thankfully now I'm free about that, otherwise I wouldn't be a very good marriage specialist if I couldn't talk about sex, would I? So, successful relationships are all about making sure that no topics are off limits. Personally, I see that any uncomfortableness in me about a topic as an opportunity to grow and to work through what it is bringing up for me, if that makes sense. Any uneasiness is a sign perhaps that you need to face something. For example, if finances are off limits, or if parenting discussions are off limits, or if your in-laws are off limits. Why is that? Why can't you have a civil conversation? Because we should be able to express ourselves and concerns and needs with the person that we've committed to be with. Not discussing topics concerning your loved one is manipulating, actually, in a way, because you are controlling that area. So what can you do if your husband or wife or another family member, let's say, refuses to discuss an issue? Well, it's very tempting to get angry and to push it. But I actually find that empathizing works best, because usually their refusal indicates fear. Fear that they may be attacked, fear that they will be embarrassed and lose face, fear of confrontation, fear they may have to change or they don't know if they can change, fear they have to admit they were wrong. So refusal to discuss certain topics is often a form of defense to protect their self-esteem. So you can help them to open up by being as gentle and as kind as possible, making it a really safe place so that no one is attacked. In the marriage work that I do, I coach couples on the 15 principles of successful communication for greater connectedness, and this involves giving individuals the confidence and tools to speak out and voice their concerns, as well as creating a safe environment to do so. Some people I work with have never expressed their feelings before, and it's great to see the results in the relationship when they do follow through with this. I had a lady the other day who said, "Nicola, I do not know what you have done with my husband. He never talks about anything. He is completely shut down when it comes to sharing his feelings. I didn't even know he could talk about them, but since you've had 2 sessions with him, he's come back and he's sharing this and he's sharing that." And it's really sometimes just having the confidence and knowing how to articulate what we want to say in a way that isn't going to cause conflict, but in a way that is going to help a couple move forward, whatever the issue. Now, when it comes to anger management, alcoholism or drug addiction, denial is often at play. So this is where you may be shut down and there may be a real challenge to get to talk to those kind of issues. And that's often because they're not ready to admit to anyone, let alone themselves, that they've lost control. So with this, I would say don't take it personally. It's not about you. And if it's an issue that they're struggling with, in these cases, it's best to get support for yourself and guidance on how to address it. Don't suffer alone. And the reason I say that is because so many people wait for time to change things, or they hope that their partner will all of a sudden open up, or all of a sudden change their behaviour, and it rarely does if we're just waiting and not actually looking at different ways to address it, different ideas. That's what needs to happen. Now, another major source of conflict I want to talk about today is control over free time. Control over how you spend your leisure time. Who organises what you do in your free time in your relationship? Is it you, them, or a bit of both? It's an interesting one because I find that many men and women, especially men actually, like to be controlled in this area. They like to be told what they're doing. They like not to have to think about organising what's going to happen on the weekend or during the week or where they go on holiday. They prefer it all to be done for them. And the women that I've worked with like to take control of it. However, this isn't always the case. That's just what I've seen. And it's very rare actually in this area, control of leisure time, to find a balance. I find in relationships, over time, one person usually ends up going along with what the other person wants. Quite often, it's easier that way, and therefore it's accepted that one will take over such activities and both seem happy with it. That's to start with. However, whilst what typically happens later down the line is the person that is controlling, organising everything, gets fed up. They feel like the whole relationship is driven by them. And I see this time and time again, where I help men and women to win back their husband or wife, and the wives will say to me, "Nicola, I'm so frustrated. I'm so sick and tired of being the one to arrange everything. Why is it me that has to decide what we do on the weekend? Why do I have to organise family get-togethers with their family? Why do I have to arrange my own birthday and our anniversary? I just want them to come up with something and do something or give me a surprise. This is the kind of thing that they share with me. And it happens to men as well, so it's not always women that are doing the controlling and the planning for the activities. I have had it the other way where women will share with me that they feel very upset that they don't get a choice in where they go on holiday. They don't get a choice in what they're doing on the weekends or what hobbies they do. They follow their husband's hobbies. They follow their husband's choices of holiday locations. And I want to highlight with this is that the person being in control isn't always the one to benefit because they find it exhausting. Dan is someone I work with to save his own marriage, and his wife had threatened divorce and she'd refused marriage counselling because she felt that he was the one with the problem. And her biggest complaint was that he doesn't do anything, that she does everything. And she was saying to him that he lacked motivation, she had to organise everything, she had to plan everything from finances to activities. And this one is perhaps easier to control than other conflicts because all Dan had to do is to take the right action. And Dan didn't have a clue about how to go about finding activities for the families to do on weekends or how to be more proactive and do things without being asked. So together we just created a whole new list, a whole new action plan for him for the whole month, and where he could research to get ideas, what his wife would like, what his children would like, so he could show her that he was taking control. And that was enough to win her back. That was enough to her to see, okay, he's taken responsibility, he's stepped up, he's got support, he's taking action, and she can just enjoy the moment. So I think when it comes to leisure activities, it's really good to have a balance in a relationship. It's really good to share it. And this also creates attraction. For Dan's wife, she became instantly more attracted to him because he wasn't being passive, he wasn't waiting for her, he was into his masculine energy. Because the masculine energy is that focused, driven energy. And when women have children and women in the workforce, we become more masculine energy because we have to. And then this can imbalance the attraction in the relationship. We all have masculine and feminine energy. And so if we really want to create that polarity in that intimate, passionate attraction, then it's good to have a balance, one person being more in their masculine energy and one person being more in their feminine energy, especially when it comes to free time. I hope that makes sense. Now, it doesn't always work out like this. As I mentioned, some people like to hold control of leisure time and refuse to do anything they don't want to do. They may refuse to visit family on weekends or over holidays if they don't want to do it. They may organise all the trips to suit their interests. They may be so stubborn on anything that's not their idea and squash it and leave the other person to either do it alone or not go. And it's hurtful when this happens, but the best thing to do with this is to not give in. Like, your free time, your leisure time is important. Your life is important. How you spend your time is important. So you have to strike the balance here. You have to do things that make you happy. You have to stand up for yourself and say, okay, I have a right to do these things that I would really like to do, as long as they're not hurting or harming you. And I'm going to do them in moderation, and I'm going to go and not give in. Because if you keep giving in the relationship, then it's not going to be balanced. And one of the main fears that a lot of people have when I speak to them is they say to me, Nicola, I don't want to be a doormat. I'm worried about being a doormat. Am I being a doormat? It's a huge concern for a lot of people. And when someone is giving in the relationship, either they will hold resentment there and in the moment, or later down the line through regrets. And what are regrets? Regrets are repeated resentments. So you're constantly regretting, constantly resenting. what's happened in the past. And we don't want that in a relationship, for obvious reasons. Other control issues that can come up can be about sex, housework, how the home looks, parenting, physical appearance, and finances. I'm not going to go over them all. Finances and sex are really big ones, so I'm going to address them coming up. So be sure to subscribe to the show if you haven't already subscribed to the show, to make sure that you don't miss that one. Finances is the next one that's going to be coming up, and then I will do the differences in sex later on, because control really does come up there a lot, and it causes a lot of tension, a lot of frustration. So now I'm going to give you a little bit of guidance to see if you want to apply it. It may be something you feel, yes, I can do that in my relationship, and it may be something you feel, no, Nicola, that doesn't seem right for me, I can't imagine myself doing that. This is what works with a lot of couples, so I'm going to share it with you. So, how to deal with control issues. The best thing is to stand up for yourself in a non-aggressive way and be willing to negotiate until you can agree on a middle ground. One of the most famous marriage experts, John Gottman, said that over 70% of couples' arguments are non-resolvable. So what does that mean? It means that finding a middle way, compromising, agreeing to disagree, and finding a way to move forward is essential. You can't convince the other person to take your side completely. I believe the best way to approach things is to bring things up in a light-hearted way, in a joking comment. So when you're both in a good mood, perhaps you're out for dinner, or you're snuggling on the sofa watching a movie, or you are watching your children play football or rugby or hockey or whatever it is, when you're in a kind of like good, neutral kind of mood, just making a joke and just sort of saying, you know, you're a bit controlling, or I'd like to change this, in a way where it's not going to cause a lot of friction. That's something you can do. If that doesn't work, or if that doesn't feel comfortable to you, then I feel and I would like statements are the best way to get your point across. Obviously it's a bit more serious than joking, but it works just as well. So for example, I feel upset when I'm not part of the decision making, and I would like to be more involved. Or I feel rejected when topics I want to discuss are brushed under the carpet. I would like if we could discuss this issue, please. Let me know when it's good for you and I will be ready. So you're saying I feel, part one, and I would like, part two. And then you're leaving it open. Then you're not being controlling back. You're not being demanding, you're not being selfish, you're not pushing them into a corner. You're just saying how you feel and what you would like, and then seeing how they respond. The reason that it's really important to stop control issues from becoming chronic is because obviously it's not attractive to be manipulative, and it's not attractive to be passive aggressive, because when someone's being passive aggressive, they don't need to say anything. You can feel their resentment, you can feel they're annoyed, you can feel the silent treatment, and it's horrible. In fact, sometimes I think it's worse than someone having a huge angry outburst. It's far better and far more effective to influence your partner with love and kindness. So this is the key thing. You can actually influence and create change in your partner by being loving, by being kind, by giving them their most top emotional needs. When I work with someone, I go through the 17 most important relationship needs, and I have each in the couple, or if I'm only working with one person, work out what are their top 5 and what are their partner's top 5. And when they start giving them their top 5, they're going to become really close, they're going to become really good friends again, they're going to fall back in love again, and then they can influence them. And it's far better to control by influencing in a positive way, where someone wants to do what you're saying, and that it's not really control because they want to do what you're saying, than it is to demand or beg or force. So the point I want to make is that all control issues can be managed if you understand them and speak up. They won't go away on their own. Left unattended, they can endanger otherwise strong relationships over time. Now, if your partner really is, it's my way or the highway kind of person, and you've been feeling unhappy for a long time, then maybe it's time to consider getting some support to work out how to change this in a way that will bring your partner towards you rather than away from you. And if you recognise yourself as the controlling one and are trying to make it up to your spouse, then you'll want to say and do the right things now to change this before it's too late. Do get in touch with me if you don't know quite how to go about this. Or if you want to read more about my Empowered Love Formula, which covers 6 weeks of training on how to transform relationships if you're the only person trying, then I'm going to put the link with this episode, because it's a really powerful way to get yourself with all the skills and all the tools you need to turn it around. What is needed on both sides when it comes to control is a positive, proactive approach. I personally believe that relinquishing control is the best gift you can give yourself and relationships. For you, it's a gift because, as I mentioned at the beginning, it doesn't feel good to be controlling. It's certainly not empowering to know that someone is doing something because you're making them. You want your partner to do things because they want to do them. They want to help you out. They want to be close to you. They want to give you affection, attention. Not because you've told them to. You want to inspire them and be respected rather than being bossy and selfish, surely. Self-centeredness is often behind most controlling behaviour. When I look back at the conflicts that I used to have in my relationship, it was either because I wanted to have my cake and eat it, or my partner did. We didn't really want to compromise. We were both in our self-centered way of thinking. Of course, we weren't always like that, but that's where the conflicts were. The conflicts were where, no, I want this, and no, I want you to do this. Since I've been supporting countless couples to save their relationship, or design a new life after separation. Some people come to me after they've separated and they want to know how to clear the resentment, how to create a new life after a divorce. One of the things I've noticed is behind control there is always fear, resentment, or self-centeredness driving it. And none of these are attractive in a relationship or good for a marriage. Instead of controlling, when you allow your partner to be who they are and be who they want to be, you attract them to you. And you also inspire them to reciprocate and love you for who you are too. And that's the best thing you could ever want in a relationship. To be completely yourself and to be loved for being yourself. If you've been controlling and want to make it up to your husband or wife, or if you feel like you're being controlled right now and you've tried everything to get your spouse to change and it's just not working, then get the 7 Secrets to Saving Your Marriage free ebook. I'm going to put the link as well with this episode. It has plenty of marriage advice that can help you to stop divorce and save your relationship. And if you really can't wait any longer and you're willing to invest some time into changing things, then get in touch and we can arrange a call to turn things around. Because doing nothing and having control issues in your relationship, or thinking in your head, oh, my partner's controlling, or if your wife or husband has told you you're too controlling and you're not doing anything to change, it's a red flag. The good thing is, you've had the warning sign and you can act. Well, I hope this is useful to you. Do stay tuned for the next episode, which is going to be about financial conflict and financial control, which is a huge topic that keeps coming up. People keep saying to me that they really need support because their partner is spending a lot of money on their family, or they don't agree on how the money is being managed. And money is a huge area. So I'm looking forward to sharing more about that with you. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that's left a rating or review. It really does support me to create more podcasts. One, it motivates me, so it makes me really excited to know that people are listening and people are liking the content. And 2, it gets recognised by Spotify and iTunes and Stitcher that my show is good, and therefore I know that it's worth creating more. Because my time is precious, your time is precious. I want to be giving value, I want to be helping, I want to, be of service basically. And I enjoy this, so thank you for being with me. Have a wonderful week ahead. From my heart to yours, take care.
Thank you for listening to How to Save Your Marriage with Nicola Beer. To book your free Save My Marriage consultation, please visit www.savemymarriageprogram.com/consult. And if you've enjoyed this episode, Nicola would really appreciate it if you could leave a rating and review on whatever app you're listening through, so the show stays visible, allowing more people to get the support they need to increase their love, passion, and happiness.